How's it going, internets? I hope you're having a lovely day. It's that time again. It's time to get into some animation, time to get that imagination all revved up, get into some creativity, and it's time to get inspired. And today's inspiration comes from Mike Huddleston. And if you're not familiar with his work, check right over here. What I really love about his work is it kind of reminds me of Mike Mignola's work a little bit, but he's got almost a really unique take on anatomy, which I really like. He has just a way with proportions and kind of the camera angles or the perspective that's really interesting and really intriguing. And I really like his inking style. It seems very loose but not erratic, and very focused but still loose, that I really love. I love that he does a little bit of color in there, and he's kind of loose with his color as well. It's not super precise and needing to fill every area. It's just like a little bit of a smattering of color that is just really gorgeous. This is some work that he did on Del Toro's The Strain. I just loved this panel right here. I thought this was really intense and really cool. Great flow and line of action throughout the whole panel. You see the dragging in the arms as he's throwing back. You see the movement here. The background really plays into it here, angling, again, kind of pointing towards where your eye is supposed to be looking and really directing the eye movement through that. And even with the little bit of staccato from the background as well. Lovely color choices. Just a really sophisticated panel and lovely composition in there. Really gorgeous. Again, I love the way that this is the Max. I can't remember the name of the original creator of it, but I love his take on it too. Really just, like I said, he plays with proportion really interestingly. That I really like. I feel like he's looser than I am with his perspective and his proportions and everything, and I'd love to push my stuff a little bit more in that way as well. Just gorgeous stuff. But I did want to share a quote with you guys that I was able to find from, I believe it was from an interview that he gave, and he said, "If I don't feel a little bit like I'm on a tightrope, then I'm doing something wrong." I thought that was really a tough quote to swallow. It's basically get out of your comfort zone. If you're not pushing yourself, you're not growing. If you think of it like exercise, if you're lifting 15 pounds every day, yeah, your reps are going to get, better, and it's going to be easier and probably have some good tone, but are you going to keep building muscle and getting stronger? No, you got to put on, even if it's just, another pound a week, just something that's going to push you to continue to grow and to push those muscles and to get stronger and to get your creative flow and that muscle and that ability to get in and create and make stuff and get it stronger each and every day. And I think that's difficult because I know for myself too, pushing into places that maybe you haven't tried, you're gonna get some failures along the way, and that's okay. It's just learning and growing, but it's difficult sometimes when you've kind of got a system that works for you and you're pretty, at least fairly confident in that, you've built something up, and then to try and break that again to make it better potentially is a difficult thing, and it's a tough thing to do, but I think it's essential for any sort of growth so you don't really stagnate. So great challenge, great quote that I know throughout the day I've been thinking that and trying to implement it into a lot of the work that I was doing earlier today. And it was definitely, at least for me, a helpful thing to think, you know what, am I feeling uncomfortable with how much I'm pushing in this? No, maybe push a little bit harder. So maybe that's something that'll speak to you guys throughout the day while you're doing your creative work. So let's get into some animation. This is the Dazzle rig. It's a free rig you can grab from the Steam community. It's part of the Dota 2 collection of rigs. As always, there will be a link in the description below if you guys want to play around with it as well. And if you're not familiar with what we'll be doing for the rest of the video, give ourselves around 48 frames, give or take a few. I go off and I find a rig that I've never used before. It's a free resource for you guys to play around with as well, and we kind of go from there. A little bit of over the shoulder, just hang out with me while I animate, a little bit of talking through the process, but most of all, the main goal of doing these videos each and every day is to hopefully encourage you guys and inspire you to go off and create your own unique, amazing, wonderful, imaginative, creative content each and every day to push yourselves further, to make you feel like you're not alone in your art day, and just to have some fun too. So let's go ahead and get playing. So this one I thought would be fun because we have a prop to use. I don't always get props, and I like using props. They help create more interesting storytelling moments here. So that would be interesting is kind of do a side view where he's holding the spear on the side. That would be kind of a little more interesting. I didn't really play around with this rig too much. I usually try to at least move most of the main controllers a little bit before I get in here, just to make sure, but it looks like we should be hopefully in the clear here somewhere. And then before I get too started, I want to create the first pose, and then I want to parent the other hand so that we don't have to worry about that later. But let's get started here. Start creating a more interesting pose. Like I said, we're going to favor the chest and the hips towards looking toward camera a little bit. And then we'll go ahead and grab these two. We'll twist it the other way. Rotate that over still. And this one so we can get that little bit of twist in there. Maybe not so much. It's going to be interesting with this kind of loose pant. I don't know what you call this. I am not very into different kinds of fashion, so bear with me. But this loose skirt, pant, skirt thing, I don't know what you call this. But this dressing is going to be interesting. Let's try and keep our knees and feet and everything in there. And let's go and push this down a little bit more. I'd like to get the gate a little bit further back. So let's not worry about too much about getting within that clothing pattern so much just yet. And bring the hand back here. Bring this forward a little bit more. I kind of like the idea of it being pretty forward instead of angled upward. And let's see if we can't should go over on the top and under on the bottom, I think. Don't forget, it's always fun and good to get up and do the moves or act them out yourself or make faces in a mirror or any of that kind of stuff. Use yourself as a reference whenever you need to. Try and push those poses and that movement as much as you can. Let's pull them in here a little bit more. Give yourself some more unique ideas by doing that too than just getting in there all the time. Now let's pull that one back a little bit more. Bring that down. Over, down. Bring this down a little bit more. Does the wrist feel a little too broken? I think it does, so let's do something a little more like this. And for some reason that elbow's sticking out to me here, so let's see, where are you, little elbow? There you are, little elbow controller. So let's move that forward just so you can get at that. Translate that back here. Feels a little better. Kind of like the elbow to be a little bit lower down. So maybe we can really need to rotate the chest here a little bit. Take the head and the neck. Push that forward. Over. Do something more like that. That should give us a little more interesting pose here. Maybe push that shoulder up a little bit. This one down a little bit more. Push the elbow out a little bit. Let's see how we're doing here. Still feel like there's something a little funky with zero this shoulder out a little bit more. Yeah, I don't know. It just feels a little off, but I think it's just because there's some geometry here. I'm sure it's some clothing option here that we're seeing, but it's throwing me off for some reason. makes it feel like there's a deformation there, so just have to keep that in mind. And let's rotate that back a little bit more. Alright, we got an okay starting pose. Let's make sure we drag these downward here. Maybe a little bit more up. Just so we have somewhere to start with. Make sure they're still parented correctly. Alright, and let's go ahead and turn everything off, except for our NURB curves, NURB surfaces, and our polygons, so we don't have to key anything that we don't need or don't accidentally go in there. Set our frame range here, go ahead and save our file real quick. We are using Autodesk Maya 2014 for today's video. Let's go ahead and grab everything and set our first key there. Alright, now let's see if I do this. Making sure everything still works. Okay, and now before I go on, I want to create a locator here, and I'll grab that, move that over here, make sure I'm popping that pretty much in the middle of that one there. And I think what I want to do is parent the hand to the locator and the locator to the staff. So window, outliner, show all, and we got this here, control click the locator, and we'll parent that, and then we got the locator, and control click the staff, and we'll parent that, and then if I did that right, there we go, okay, so everything should be moving together. Alright, so let's start getting this bad boy working. Actually, before I do that, let's see if we can't figure out how to avoid this a little bit better. More here, and I realize it's just kind of an extra, but it's going to be throwing me off if I don't try and address it now. And maybe you guys work differently, but sometimes if something's off while I'm trying to work, it really distracts me, and that's something that I'll focus on. So even if it's not perfect, I just try to get it a little bit more in the wheelhouse of where I want it to be before I go too far. Alright, maybe one more thing, we'll address this a little bit, get a little better flow throughout there. Does it feel a little better? I think so. Alright, so let's get started. I'm going to save our file one more time. Yeah, let's do our feet here. I think we're going to go a little bit slower, so probably 14s. And we'll push that forward there. And we'll flick between those two. And then what's that? I've been going on slower walks lately, I've noticed. Am I starting to like 14s over 12s? Yeah, let's see. Alright, yeah, let's bring this one back. Bring it back here. And this one, bring it there. Now let's see how we like that. Okay, this is probably too far forward, so maybe we'll only do about that much there. And maybe this one should be a little bit more forward to start with. Something like that. Okay, and let's tweak this clothing a little bit more as well, just so we can get it out above that leg. Okay, and let's go ahead and grab both feet. It's a start. I don't know if it's perfect yet for the timing, but it's a place to start from. And sometimes you just got to start somewhere. So even if you end up adjusting it or tweaking it later, gotta find a place to start with. I tend to like to start with the feet and the hips personally. I feel like that's a good place for me to go. If you guys work differently, I'd love to know your kind of workflow. It's always cool to get new ideas and different perspectives for sure. So let's see. Okay, I think this foot needs to be a little bit lower and this one a little bit higher. So let's look at both of those. Window, animation editors, graph editor. Let's look at our translate Ys. Balance those out a little bit better. Probably push them a little bit higher. Let's see. This one still feels a little too high. So I'll have some height variation, I guess, in there. That's alright. Maybe a little bit more. And this one maybe a little bit down. One other thing I might do here, I feel like the hips might be a little bit too over to screen left a little bit there. Great, and then let's go down here, up, down, up, down, up, down, and back up. Let's see. Alright, starting to work. Go ahead and save our file there. Let's balance those. Translate Ys out a little bit more. Starting to get that feel that I already kind of wanted it to have in the early stages. That's always a positive, I think, when first couple of tweaks that you do are working well, because then you know you're kind of headed in the right direction. So I'm excited about that. That's always good. And let's do a little bit up and down here, actually, which I think I need to do in this one here. We'll go 4. Yeah, let's go 4 up, 11 down, 18 up, and 25 down, 32 up, 39 down, 46, and 53, and then back to where we originally started. Let's see. Alright, I think that works, but I think it's too much. So let's scale it back there. A little bit more. And this one's got to overshoot a little bit here. And let's see how that works. Still feels like it's too much. Cut it by another 10% on both sides. Still too much. We could still scale it back a little more. Let's still pull it back. Alright, and let's start doing some more with the hips here. Maybe go ahead and push it a little bit that way. A little bit this way, a little bit that way, a little bit this way, and back. Look at our translate X's, and remember that we did kind of set them over a little bit here. So we want to keep with that rather than balancing it out over the zeroed out faction. There, and let's see. See, that feels probably too much. Yeah, let's cut it back. Let's see now. rotate here. Just a little bit of rotate Y. And we're still going to favor this one, so we're not going to go fully out there, but I want to give a little bit of twist when that other leg goes forward. Yeah, let's balance those out. Yeah, didn't do very well on that one here. And maybe we'll minimize that a little bit more. Okay, and now let's look at the chest. This way. And then back again. Alright, let's balance that out a little better. Again, we probably don't need to go as far over there. Favor the original pose a little more. Let's see. Alright, and let's do a little bit of rotate Z here. So we lean into the planted foot. And we'll offset it in the chest here in a second as well. And I'll balance that out. And then let's look at the chest here. I'm not sure if that's going to work the way I want it to because I have everything else set up, but we'll see. Okay. Yeah. I have to just do a little bit of that. A little bit goes a long way with this one here. And let's see that now. And let's try inverting it, flip it around, see if we like it better that way. Yeah, I think I like it that way better. Alright, and let's look at the shoulders here. Let's try to go up a little bit here, and down there. So you can get a little bounce of the shoulders there too. Again, ideally I would have done this in FK, but there's no FK controllers here, so I gotta use IK. Alright, and let's tone that down maybe a little bit more. I don't think we can go as busy. So let's see. Right, and let's look at our rotates here. Do a little rotate back, forward, back, forward, back, forward, back, forward, back. Right, don't need a lot of that, and we'll offset it in the chest as well. But I think it'll help loosen up the middle portion a little bit more. Let's see. Right, probably switch this around a little bit more too, but we've got to start somewhere. Maybe we just need to tone it down. I don't mind that too much. Hey, let's see how we're doing. Still think the up and down is just a little too much on here. You can really feel it in the elbow. Maybe universally push it up a little higher. Because now I'm worried about intersecting through there, so let's see. Alright, and then let's do a little bit of rotate X here. Tone that down. Just need a little bit of tilt in there. Don't need a lot. Yeah, I'll probably start with it a little bit further. And let's look at this part. Have that go down. Up, down, up, down, up, down. One more frame over. And I think actually I'm going to hang this down as well, rather than keep it straight. I feel like we either need to do just a little bit of it, or have it universally like just hang down like that, and I think that might feel a little more natural. Let's see that now. Alright, and let's balance that out a little bit more, so it's not just favoring swinging forward, but we get a little bit out of the swing back as well. Make sure we're getting in those same values. And we'll have it swing forward here, back there, here, there, here, there, here, and back again. And make sure we're going a little more there. Okay, I think we need to scale that back a little bit more. And maybe scale this one back a little bit more as well. By about 20% or so. Alright, starting to come together. Let's look at these hand poses before we go too far, see if we can really get a better grip. I should have tweaked this a little more. I think it's too jammed up into that thumb, but we'll make do. Let's actually go to frame 1 here. And let's look at this thumb. Let's push it forward here. kind of funky how they're set up. I would think that it'd give you one for each finger, but it's one for the hand there. Alright, not the greatest hand pose, but it'll work. This is one of those times where I probably should have done that. I kind of skipped that step in the beginning a little bit, and so I usually try to lock in my posing a little bit tighter. For some reason I didn't adjust the hands so much. And let's go a little bit more here. There. At least the front hand is going to look a little bit better than kind of facing camera. Alright. Actually, this should probably be a little bit tighter, which means I'll need to go up a little bit more here. Oh, this one only has 2. Why does that one have 3? What a bummer. Okay, let's go back then. See, this one had one for the base, the mid, and the tip. And this one just has 2. So, let's see here. Try to just get a tighter pose this way, I guess. Still workable. That controller doesn't seem to do anything, so I guess we'll just stick with something like that. Let's see. I almost feel like this should be further back. Those hands feel too far forward now. So let's go something like this. Even though it's not going to be as particular, I feel like the fingers feel better that way. A little bit more. Let's see. And bring this down a little bit more. Okay, and then we gotta make sure we're doing that on the right frame there. Okay. And let's look at this one. And what do we have this one going on for? So I'll have this one be on 3. Move it down. And then 10 up. Just a little bit. And just so we have some variation between the front hand and the back hand there. And again, it's not something we really need to see, but just kind of feel that there's some variation there. And bring that back. Okay, so we definitely want to clean this up a little bit more and tone it down quite a bit. We just need a little bit of movement there. Not so much. But that's why doing a locator on there is a better option, because then that lets us get into the hand, the prop, and the other hand as well, while still keeping them pretty much parented and constrained to the same thing. Alright, let's look at the feet some more. We haven't really done a good feet pass. So let's go ahead and drag it back here, lift it up here, and plant it down. So 4 frames and then 3 frames. Drag it back there, and lift it up here. between the steps, get a better average of what we're looking at. Yeah, let's see that now. Okay, and 4 frames, and we'll drag it back. 3 frames, and we'll lift it up. 4 frames, drag it back, and 3 frames, lift it up. Okay, and let's look at this little toe, see if there's anything we can do there. 42, 56, and 2. Lift it up, play it down. Drag it back there, lift it up. 2 frames, drag it back, lift it up. Alright, feels like we could probably have it hit at 29. It's only 1 frame less of that. I feel like it's probably a little too pushed though. So let's take those values, scale them back a little bit more. Alright, and let's look at this one. Set it there. And 15. 28. Back. Okay. So 7. Drag it back. 2 frames before I lift it up. Drag it back there. Lift it up here. Let's see how we're doing. I think that second one's a little too high. So yeah, looks like it in our graph editor too. So let's just scale that back a little bit more. And let's see how we're doing. Now, do we have a jaw on this guy? Let's see. We do have a jaw. Okay. Jaw open. Let's leave his jaw open to start with. Yeah, and then we'll do a little bit of variation here as well. But I think I'm going to universally keep it open. It's just a pretty rigid controller, so we'll have to do a lot of this in the graph editor here. I think I like the idea of having him keeping an open mouth. Makes him feel a little more fun, I think. Okay, so let's look at that jaw open. And again, we want to never really close it all the way. We can do a little bit more closed than we have. And not open it so much either. So let's see. Yeah, it's too much open. Like I said, a very sensitive controller here. So I gotta be careful with where we go. I also think we're closing too much here, so just so you can get some looseness in there. Still feel like we could probably cut it about in half from what we have. Let's see. Maybe open it universally a little bit more. And scale it back another 20% or so. Alright, go ahead and save our file. let's look at these guys, see if we can do something fun with these. So let's have it go forward here, back there, forward here, back, forward, back, forward, and then we'll delay them a couple of frames and mix them up a little bit more. I think that'll be fun. It's way too much movement, so we're going to scale that to about half of what we have right now. It doesn't have to be super even, but just so it's kind of in the same ballpark here. Yeah, let's see that now. Okay, let's take the outer ones and we'll delay them a frame. And the inner ones, and we'll push them forward a frame here. And let's see how that feels. Let's just do one frame variation between those. So let's take these ones and we'll push them forward a frame. And I think we still need to cut everything back a little bit more. It's a little too much movement still. So let's see. There we go. Alright, and we're still need to do something with the skirt stuff. And something with the hair. It should be fun. See how we want to approach that. Keep this main pose basically here. Let's flip it a little bit. Here. There. Here. On the back. And we can go a little bit forward, a little back, a little forward, a little back, a little bit forward, a little bit back. And back again. Maybe tone down this front a little bit more. Let's see. Yeah, this back piece is just not working so well. So let's start with it a little bit more middle of the road. And then let it swing out a little bit further to the other side here. Let's see. Yeah, look at those rotate X's and just cut them to almost nil. It's just too much. Let's see. Let's see if I rotate Z again. That feels a little too far already. keep scaling it back. Maybe we'll add just a little bit of rotate Y here, just to loosen it up just a little bit more here too. Go back. I feel like that's probably too much. I don't need a lot of it. Let's see. Start off with it inward a little bit more. And let it go out a little bit more. That might be too much, but we'll see. Then we could go a little bit of rotate Z. There. A little bit there. A little bit there. There. And back. Just so we get a little bit more looseness in there. Now let's see. I think the rotate Y might be a little too much still. Let's see. I really don't like this back piece, so let's just cut this even more, just so it still has some movement to it, but hardly any. It's just too noticeable. If we went the other way with our rotate X's, maybe that would offset it a little bit. Yeah, that feels better. But not so much in. And this one we could probably tweak a little bit more too. Until we don't rotate Z's on here as well. Maybe that'll help us a little bit more. There we go. I think this one and this one needs to swing out further. Maybe not on every one of them. A couple of them could. I'm just going to do some keep alive here. So I'll do one where it's a tighter pose. Pose here too. All right, now let's kind of flick between those. I'll take that one there, delete that. I'll start kind of slow move. And then we'll ease back into our last pose a little bit more. And we'll take a tip and we'll delay a frame here. Let's see if that helps me. Okay, I do think that this pose here is a little too extreme, so I'll cut it back there. And still keep the timing about the same. Yeah, it still feels like it's just too much. Alright, and let's look at the thumb here as well. That's a little bit higher, that's a little bit lower, and back to where we started. Great, and this could be a little bit less than that. And we'll ease out at the beginning. And back into it there. And not as high there, so cut that back a little bit more. Still feels like it's probably too much off. I want to still make it feel like it's holding there, just that there's a little bit of movement through it. Not a ton of movement, but just a little bit there. Alright, and let's look here. I'm not going to worry too much about the other controllers there. Sit there, sit there. A little bit loose here. A little bit tighter there. Back. Okay, now push that back a couple of frames. Ease out of that original one, and then back into there. Again, nothing that's too precise, but just so that those, look at that pixel lock there. Right, and now let's go ahead and save our file. We're getting pretty close here, and let's see what we can do about this here. So what do we need to do in this case? We need to bring this one back so that it doesn't intersect there. And flick between those ones there. And this one needs to go forward here. Over. Rotate it. Okay, do something like that. Again, this isn't going to be something that I really want to polish a ton, but just so we can get. Yeah, we need to go over here, up, rotate it. Okay, and that'll go back there at 28, and back there again. And this one would have to be at 35, right? And bring that one in. Now, one thing that's it's a little too pointy, I think. Let's see. Take a couple steps backwards, have it be a little pointy there. Cut it a few frames back and still have it covered. Looks like it. The other thing I think I can do is raise this universally up a little bit higher too. So we're getting a little bit of intersection there. It's like right there. Let's see. Alright, I think we got something workable. Definitely could spend some more time polishing this up, but we got something kind of fun. So let's take a look back at where we started. We're looking at the beautiful work of Mike Huddleston, and he said, if I don't feel a little bit like I'm on a tightrope, then I'm doing something wrong. So go out there and challenge yourself. Get into places that are uncomfortable, that you know that are your struggle points, and work through them. Because I believe in you. You can do it. I hope you're taking another step in your journey towards mastering whatever medium it is that you're passionate about. I love you guys lots. I think that'll wrap it up for today. Remember, you are the creative future, so go out there and make something today. And guess that'll do it. So we will see you for some more animation tomorrow.